One play at a third time. So let's not focus on the great game. Let's focus on the great play. Let's play with passion, let's play with love, let's play with responsibility, let's play with respect for one another. How you feel? How you feel? Good. Morning. I don't want you to focus on, because if I ask you right now, do you want to have a great game? All y'all gonna say yes, right? I want you to focus on, I want to have a great play. I want to have a great play. Then the next play, I want to have.
We are back with another episode of Inside the Locker Room, our HBCU football segment. And me and Michael, first, we want to start off this by saying thank you to getting us to 1.3K views on our latest video. Our goal was 1,000. We exceeded that. But with that being said, now we have goals set in place that we don't want to get under 1,000 views. But thank y'all for the support, and thank y'all for bringing in the subscribers and keep doing what y'all are doing. It means a lot. We continue to do this because of y'all. But to kick this off, Prairie View just beat Southern on their homecoming. Michael, is Prairie View a lock for the SWAC championship? I mean, my opinion, earlier we could have gave some of like, okay, look, Prairie View looks inconsistent at times. They have weaknesses, but we could just say like the SWAC West was just a weak division this year.
Right.
After this game against Southern, I kind of think Prairie View, with their wins already being in the Western Division against Grambling, Texas Southern, and Southern,
yeah,
they have the edge, and I don't see them being a team like UAPB. No disrespect to them, and I don't see them beating Alcorn with how Alcorn has been playing this year. So, Michael, I ask you, do you think Prairie View is a lock to go to the SWAC championship and take the SWAC West title?
At this point, I think Southern has the capabilities of representing the SWAC.
You mean
West.
Prairie View?
I mean Prairie View. Sorry, yeah. I think
yes, he meant Prairie View, everybody. So before y'all say Southern, he meant Prairie View.
Yeah, I meant to say Prairie View. Excuse me, y'all. It's been a long day for you, boy. But I think Prairie View has the capabilities of representing the SWAC West and playing Jackson State in the SWAC championship. They are off to a hot start, and it's because of their offense. Their offense is not the best, but it's good enough. Their defense, is not the best, but it's good enough. This team is good enough. I think Prairie View is really in a good spot because, I mean, they're 3-0 right now, and they're 4-2, 5-2 right now.
I gotta look at the conference record, but I mean, look, I'm gonna say this. I think Prairie View's in a good spot. The teams that you needed to beat, in my opinion, coming into this season was you had to beat Grambling, you had to beat Southern, you had to beat Texas Southern, although at times Texas Southern is very inconsistent. You had to beat Texas Southern, and I would have had it on my mind. You had to beat Alcorn too, but Alcorn hasn't been playing to how people predicted. But yeah, I mean, Prairie View, they have a lot going good for them. They got a first-year head coach that looks incredible when he's already getting other offers, and maybe we'll talk about that later. But you got offense that, Michael, you had said, yes, at times their offense can be inconsistent, but they have playmakers on that offense that can do just about enough to get they got the running backs, they got the receivers, and they got the quarterback play. Yes, at times, yes, they can play inconsistent at sometimes, but when it comes down to it, I believe Prairie View knows how to hit them where it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And they did that against Grambling, they did that against Southern, and they did that against a rival in TSU.
Yeah, and it's just, sometimes, in reality, if you just look at it from a reality standpoint, sometimes good enough is good enough. And, at times there's nothing wrong with, I'm not saying that Prairie View is the best, but they're the best right as far as the SWAC West. Right now, they're 4-0 in SWAC West play. And, if you look at their regular and the next remaining games of the season, they have a chance. Even if they lose one, they still have SWAC West on lock, in my opinion. But at the same time, there are still a few games left. So if I'm Prairie View, I'm asking myself, and I'm looking at the remaining schedule of this schedule. Can you win these games? Because they're winnable games, dudes. They're winnable games.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm Prairie View, I got to take control of these games the way you've been doing it. And like you said, first year head coach. And let me also say that it doesn't matter whether you're a first year or second year head coach. It depends on where the team is at. And apparently Prairie View is in a good spot with
I mean, look, they got to be in a good. They only lost 2 games, and that was to non-conference opponents, which could be reasonable. And really, Rice is a very good non-conference opponent. That's a Power 5, Power 4 school, wherever you want to call it, or G5. I'm gonna say there's a G5 school because, or G4, whatever you call it, since they're in the AAC. So Rice is actually a pretty good team. Prairie View only lost to them by a couple of touchdowns.
yeah.
But when we came into, SWAC play, look, I'm gonna be the first one to say this. Their last SWAC win was against Texas Southern, and it was, a 22-21 victory. And the only reason I wasn't so high on Prairie View at the time, and I really, thought it could still go to another team in the division. Look, I just thought like they were just at the time, their teams that they played, the
Yeah.
non-conference teams, it just didn't look good. But looking back on it, how they played against Texas Southern, I'm gonna say this: it was week 1, and that's your rival. Those games are always gonna be close.
Yeah.
But you beat Graham in the State Fair Classic, so that already gave you the edge because they were 2-0. But beating Alcorn and Southern, despite the records this year, despite the records, you beat those 2 teams. And I'm looking at the schedule. The only 2 teams that you really have to worry, or the only team you really have to worry about in this division, is just Arkansas Pine Bluff. But
Yeah.
I mean, you got to play Alabama State and Alabama A&M and Mississippi Valley State. Yes, you want to win those because those are conference games. But
But
looking at it right now, that division, Prairie View done beat almost all those teams in that division.
literally. But see, here's the
They're the
thing.
best team in that division. It's like,
Yeah. And then again, that Alabama State game, even if they lose that game, it's not going to count because what I've learned over time with the SWAC is that if you're playing a SWAC division team, if you're playing a team that you're in the same division with, because like you just said, Deuce, Prairie View is in the same division as Arkansas Pine Bluff. So if they lose that game, they go 4-1, right? If they lose Alabama State, that doesn't really kill their record because even though it doesn't make sense, but from what I've seen over time is that when it comes down to SWAC play, if you lose to your division team in the play, then you lost that one. That's kind of like when Grambling beat Jackson State. Grambling last year was what they were. I believe they were undefeated or they lost one.
yeah, look,
because Jackson State was not in the same division.
yes, and look, and to the people watching, y'all can correct us if we're wrong. But yes, if we are right, we do believe that, like, look, division wins, they matter more than your conference wins when it all boils down to it. But even then, like, Prairie View has won such amount of many games,
yeah,
that they're just in a good spot right now.
And
look, props to what the program is doing over there at the Hill, or I think that's what they call it. Props to what they're doing.
Yeah.
Look, we're not going to talk about our championship prediction. That's going to come later down the line. We'll talk more about them later. But I'm going to say this to PV. Congratulations on the season.
Yeah.
You've got through a pretty good chunk of your schedule right now. And now you just got to finish out the back end of it. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games left. Honestly, I see about the rest of them are winnable, except Alabama State, just because we know how good Alabama State is. But jumping into our next topic, speaking of Southern, we talked about how PD beat them. Southern just hasn't looked good this year. And Michael, we said at the beginning of the year, okay, look, week 1, it's a wake-up game. We said North Carolina Central, they're a pretty good football program. So we gave them some, like, I hate to say, but we gave them some excuses.
Mm-hmm.
But now looking at it, week 2 and these other weeks have rolled around. Week 2, you get a win against Mississippi Valley State, and we say, look, hey, Southern may be, but we also said Mississippi Valley State is not the best. I mean, they're not the best team in the SWAC. No offense to the Mississippi Valley State fans watching, but you lose to Alabama State 37. You lose to Fresno State 56-7. You lose to Jackson State 38-13. You lose to Bethune-Cookman 45-14. You lose to Prairie View 24-3. So you kind of start to see the pattern Southern is just not good this year.
And then
They're not good, and they just fired their head coach, Michael. So hopefully that should be a wake up call for this organization.
it is, and it was gonna come. This is not an out of
Michael,
nowhere.
you've been talking about this for weeks because you said this after the Jackson State game. He had to go if he couldn't win.
And you saw what happened. You saw what happened. They didn't play with good enough consistency. You lose to Prairie View 24-3 in your homecoming. And Deuce, I've told you, and I've told all of you this. In order for you to keep your job, whether that's in the SWAC or any HBCU, 9 times out of 10, if you don't win your homecoming game and you're already doing badly, and you don't win the games that are important to the school that you're representing, you are going to lose your job either after the homecoming game or you're going to lose your job towards the end of the season. That's normally the ratio of the percentage of a coach losing their job. And you saw what happened to Terrence Gray. Don't get me wrong. He did well throughout the first 1 or 2 seasons, right? He did well. He didn't do too bad. It wasn't great, but it just wasn't good enough. And he had come into the second season, and it's just like you went from okay to worse. And now Southern is 1-5 or 1-6, and you lose 24-3 to Prairie View in your homecoming. So Terrence Gray's job was going to be let go, and you know, the athletic director spoke to him. I kind of knew what it was, Deuce, after when I found out that the athletic director spoke to him. I knew what it was. He finna lose his job. Because you cannot tell me that this man keeps his job and you're 1-5, and then you get beat badly in your homecoming game, and there are a lot of people at that Southern game. So now you kind of have to like, okay, now Southern's future is in the balance, because now you got to figure out who your head coach is going to be. Right now, Deuce, they're looking at he's now the interim head coach, Fred McNair. Now, Fred McNair, he's well known in the HBCU. He's well known he's a long-time respected figure. He joined Southern staff back in 2024 with Terrence Gray. He previously served as the head coach at Alcorn State for 7 seasons. Got in the Braves to multiple SWAC East Division titles and a conference championship back in 2019. So he's well known in the HBCU world. His role, you know, like I said, he's the permanent head coach right now. Now, a lot of people saying, you know, we don't want to go with Fred McNair. We don't want to go with Fred McNair. But I mean, if you really think about it, he's not a terrible option, but he's not the best option to go with. He's not terrible, because I can name a few coaches that are terrible to go with. He's not the most terrible, but I wouldn't go with him if I was Southern. You got many coaches here, okay? You got David Johnson, Florida State's running backs coach. Even though that probably doesn't make sense. I mean, I can go with history, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to do that. You got Trey Oliver, North Carolina Central's head coach. He was a former Southern assistant, right? You got a chance there. Then you got I think I'm saying his first name right, Chennis Berry, South Carolina State's head coach. Berry is a former offensive coordinator. In 2013 to 2019, he led South Carolina State to a MEAC title. I mean, you have options here. It's just determining to your athletic director and who he wants to go with. And then you got some Hall of Famers you can go with. A lot of people were saying that, you know, Hall of Famers, they don't really justify a team. No, they don't. But at the same time, what choice do you have?
I think a Hall of Famer could bring in
on with them.
A Hall of Famer could they may not be able to change the team, but they can bring in the resources to help change the team.
Exactly. And we're not out. First of all, I never said that bringing in a Hall of Famer will change the world. I never said that. What I said is that if you bring a Hall of Famer in, he could, you know, reshape this team into something that they never been. I'm not saying, first of all, no Hall of Famer is Deion Sanders. Deion is his own coach. Okay. I'm talking about bringing in a Hall of Famer that's well known, that knows the game, that can bring in the right coach staff, that can bring in the right recruiting. Okay? Mm-hmm. Look at Deshaun Jackson and how he's doing. Okay? In his first season, he's got Delaware State at the tip of the MAC conference. You got a Hall of Famer can do two things. He can upbring your culture and possibly upbring your team or not. No, I never said that a Hall of Fame coach is the best option to go with, because sometimes it's not. It's all depending on how they coach, on how they discipline the players. Because if you don't have a disciplined team, you're not going to win. And I'm not saying that Southern is not disciplined. I don't know. But disciplinary actions play a role in how your season goes. I think everyone can agree with me on that. So Southern fans know where their team is at. I'm not going to go too further on who the head coach should be and what the team looking like. If Southern's future is in the past, and it's all up to the athletic director to figure out who is the best option. And then not only that, with Southern right now, Grambling can have the possibility to take back the Bayou Classic. But despite their struggles, I don't know.
Look, speaking of Bayou Classic, well, actually, speaking of head coaching, are you still like just content with Mickey Joseph? He got to go, despite Grambling getting the win. Because I'm gonna say this, I believe that although Grambling got a win, I always like to think of UAPB as like, you know, they're like Grambling's baby rivals. You know, a team that Grambling always had. From what I've seen, Grambling normally has the upper edge on. You know, they beat them last year, they beat them this year. Majority of the time I've seen them, Grambling's beat UAPB. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna say this. I really only think the reason that UAPB lost is because they shot themselves in the foot and Grambling's defense kept them in the game all game. But from what I've seen with Mickey Joseph, he still makes questionable coaching decisions and questionable play calling. Mm-hmm. You know, like if he can't be cut out for the head coaching job, you know, I would love to see him back, you know, maybe as just a different coaching role on the, because you know, he brings the coaching mindset, and I know he has what it takes to coach. Head coaching, you know, that could, you know, people got their opinions on that. I don't think that he's the coach that Grambling needs. I think Grambling needs, well, I know Grambling needs a new coach because the coaching needs to change in that locker room. Right now, them kids are just playing just because, in my opinion, they're just playing because they have a scholarship and it's getting them their school paid for, and they're just trying to get film to go to a bigger school. This Grambling team doesn't feel like they want it, and it seems like there's no sense of identity when it comes to this team. Like it looks like they're just going out there and playing, but they're showing like they're not playing to, you know, want to win. They're not playing to, you know, I don't know. It's just a lot of I don't knows, in my opinion, that was going on with Graham. And yes, they have a winning record in their overall record. Their conference play record could be way better. But I think it all boils down to, at the end of the day, the coaching staff. And it's not just Mickey Joseph. It's not just Mickey Joseph, because, you know, a lot of times we go straight to head coach. Yes. But that whole coaching staff in general just needs like a revamp. But it's going to start with Mickey Joseph. He has to go first. I feel like this is your second year in a row and you're just not getting it done. Yeah. Mickey Joseph could very much well, as of right now, he could, if he hypothetically, he could win out and beat Southern. Then, you know, my thought process would be changed. But as of right now, it's just looking like a repeat of last year. But speaking of the Bayou Classic, I think Grambling will have the upper edge on it mainly because unless, you know, there are times where where interim coaches can come in and change the team around quickly.
Yep, Terrence Gray.
Yes, but I just think that this year Grambling has more. They have a more complete team than Southern, and I think Southern, while not having a complete team, is also being hurt by coaching, which has also hurt the team more. But it could go both ways this year. I don't see it being a definite winner, but as of right now, I give it to Graham because like we said before, Michael, Graham has the playmakers on the offense and on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. Grambling loses games when they shoot themselves in the foot, and when coaching makes questionable play calling decisions.
It's really down to the offensive inconsistency. And what I mean by that is poor offensive play calling. You got talented receivers, but you barely use them. You use your running backs more than you use your receivers. And when you use your receivers, you only use them for about 1 or 2 plays on a drive, which causes your offense not to stay on your field. And not only that, your offensive line, they're getting bull rushed, and which is causing T-Set to step out of the pocket and causing himself to do way too much to where it either causes a turnover or it's just nothing there. You have to spread the field out. You did a wide receiver screenplay. It worked. You cannot have an explosive offense if you don't have explosive play calling. It just doesn't work. You can't expect an offense to play at a level where they're dominant, where they stay on the field longer, where they can get down the field, but you don't have the play calls to do it. And then you got players missing assignments. And if you don't have players missing assignments, you got a quarterback who's inaccurate. Now, I'm not saying T-Set is inaccurate, but that's what the capabilities of when you don't have a good, successful offense. Grambling could have won the games that they won. They really could have beat Prairie View.
I think that too. I think questionable play calling lost them that game.
Yep, exactly. Your offensive inconsistency caused you to lose that game, right? Then not only that, you lose. You're 4-3 right now. When really, if your offense was at that level where they were in the first game of the season against Langston, when you beat them 55-7, your record would have been a whole lot better. Your SWAC conference play would have been a whole lot better. But you struggle, and then not only that, you lose your homecoming game against Texas Southern. You shouldn't have lost that game either, because your offensive inconsistency. And it just seems like it's the same old thing every week. Your offense is not, it's just not good enough. You have explosive players. You got the players, but it's like Mickey Joseph does not know how to use them because he's too much depending on the running game. Use your running backs in the passing game. Get them out in the open. There are many ways for Grambling to be better than what they are right now, but it's Mickey Joseph's play calling that really, like you said, is really a question mark. And when I think about the Bayou Classic, I'm asking myself, despite of Southern's record, if Grambling offense does not get to a high level in staying on the field and scoring more points and taking care of the football, Southern might end up taking the Bayou Classic again with the interim head coach. That's the main question here. Now, you asked me, is Mickey Joseph Johnson the balance? It should be. It should be. Despite of how the rest of this season goes, we'll determine. And I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have a job toward the end of the season. And like you said, Deuce, I'm with you on this one. I think Mickey Joseph is it. It's just not. Yeah, it's just really not. And I'm just at that point where like, and then you got Jackson State coming up. We already know what's gonna happen in that game.
Look, finish that, and then we're gonna talk about the Jackson State game. Or I can go ahead and talk about this right now.
You can go ahead.
Speaking of the Jackson State game,
I'm starting it up. I'm just starting it.
Yeah, speaking of the Jackson State game, as a world famed Tiger marching band member, I'm coming into this game with a lot of hope that look, maybe Grambling can pull off the magic that they did last year. But it's gonna start with, in my opinion, the offense. T-Set was hurt. He played last week, but I feel like one, an injury is still lingering with him. Two, sometimes T-Set does show his quarterback inconsistencies. Not to say because I think he's a very talented quarterback, but to beat a Jackson State defense that one, they already stepped up against, in my opinion, one of the best offenses in the league. They stopped him at the 1 yard line in Alabama State and Andrew Body. T-Set is going to have to not make quarterback errors. He's going to have to be quicker on his reads. He's going to have to make passes with confidence. You know, Michael, I told you this before. I felt like I saw this mainly exposed in the State Fair Classic. I said there was a few plays where T-Set showed his quarterback inconsistencies, made some questionable throws, and made some questionable runs.
Yeah.
He can't have that against Jackson State. And Grambling's defense has Michael. We talk about how Grambling's defense always comes to play. They gotta want to win this game because Jackson State can beat you in the air and they can beat you on the ground. And Grambling cannot allow themselves to come. They can't shoot themselves in the foot and start like play catch up because that's not going to work either. We said getting into SWAC play, playing catch up ball is not going to work, and especially it's not going to work for a team like Jackson State.
It's not.
But I'm looking at it and I'm be honest with myself. Despite all the optimism, I still see Jackson State winning this one. I still see them winning this one. How they played against Southern and how they played against Alabama State. Those two games kind of made me like, okay, this team is legit again. And I just don't see a team beating Jackson State, and I hate to say
it. There isn't. There is no one that can beat Jackson State at this point. Jackson State is pretty much on lock. They are. Offense and defense. I'm just going to go on and just say it now. And, you know, I don't care if this tears down our views. I don't care if this tears down our subscribers. I can care less if it tears down, you know, the whole Grambling community. Call me what you want. Call me. If you think I'm being biased, okay. But this is Jackson State quest for revenge. This is Jackson State that Grambling played last year.
Jackson State shouldn't have lost last year.
This is not the same Jackson State that Grambling played last year down at the hole in Grambling. Grambling is going to get completely embarrassed if they do not come out hot like a darn rocket. If Grambling offense does not get down the field, if Grambling does not use their receivers who are as talented, might not be as talented as Jackson State is, but they're good enough. And sometimes good enough is good enough. But if Grambling does not look, hey, if I'm Mickey Joseph, I'll look at the film and see what Alabama State did. But Grambling ain't Alabama State. Alabama State offense is way better than Grambling. What I'm saying is this. If Grambling offense struggles in this game, Jackson State is going to, one, they're going to embarrass Grambling. Two, it's going to be a blowout. And then three, I mean, it's just, it's going to be a long night for you as a band member and for the people over there at Grambling. It's going to be hard to watch. I think it's going to be hard to watch anyway. But then also with Grambling's defense, if you don't fix your tackling,
oh God, yes,
you're going to lose this game. Because Jackson State, they're not. I can start with Miller. I can start with many players that are hard to tackle, and Miller is one of them. Miller ain't no small, he ain't no small, Dorby looking guy. He might not be, the Derrick Henry, but he got the legs. And it ain't easy to take him down. So if Grambling don't fix their tackling problems, their communication problems on defense, it's gonna be a long night. It's gonna be a long night over there in Las Vegas. Now, y'all might be able to say the event. You know what I mean? Y'all might be able to say the event, making it a music competition with Jackson State.
Mm-hmm.
But do I think this game is going to be interesting? I don't think so. I think Jackson State is going to take over this game, and this is going to be the end of it. It's going to be the end of it. Because this is not the same Jackson State that Grambling played last year. It's not. This is a totally different team with a whole bunch of gas and no brakes. It's all gas, no brakes with Jackson State. And they ain't stopping. And I don't blame them. TC Taylor ain't stopping. Okay? The Jackson State team not stopping, period. And I know a lot of Jackson State fans can agree with me on this. This game, it's a nice event. I give it that. I like it. In Las Vegas, over there at that nice, beautiful structure of a stadium. I like it.
This game is finna give HBCU so much exposure.
Without a doubt. And the halftime show I think the halftime show is gonna it's probably gonna be the second or first best thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's gonna be the first thing, depending on how Grambling play against Jackson State. But I guarantee it won't be pretty. I think Jackson State is going. I think they're gonna take Grambling to school. Cause and like I said, call me biased, call me what you want. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. I'm just calling like it is. Jackson State is way more dominant than Grambling right now coming into this game. And I think any sports person or any HBCU analyst can agree with me on that. This game is not going to be as close as people expect it to be. Because Grambling is just not in that position right now to play with Jackson State, to hang with Jackson State. They don't have a coaching staff to hang with Jackson State. Jackson State is literally taking control of the SWAC, taking control of their division, and it's going to be dangerous. And a part of me is kind of worried about Mickey Joseph, worried about the defense, because Jackson State they got a really good offense. They're the best offense right now. So, I'm just like, okay. Well, I see you got two options. You can make adjustments now. Hopefully, the adjustment that you make can help you hang with Jackson State, or not, and you get embarrassed, and it's over before you even get to halftime, or before you even get to the fourth quarter. Those are your two options. That's it. That's really about all I got. This is going to be a revenge game for Jackson State.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the good games this week. But before we close out our SWAC side of the ball, Alabama A&M is taking on very fierce rival Alabama State in the Magic City Classic. Michael, just a quick little, I did say I wanted to talk about Alabama A&M more so, but just a quick little preview, Michael. What are your thoughts on that game?
It's gonna be a real competitive game because I like what was it called? The Magic City Classic. That's what it's called. Yeah. That class is sort of like the Bayou Classic, but the Bayou Classic is just a little bit more in history compared to the Magic City. Even though Magic City is a great venue, it's a great event. Sorry, but I think Alabama State is going to do what they've always been doing, and that's taking control of their season and literally fighting back for that first place spot. I think Andrew Body is going to take this game against Jackson State and ball out. But I think Alabama A&M, for them, they're at the competitiveness, okay? They have the competitiveness to hang on to Alabama State.
I'm gonna say this. I think Alabama A&M is gonna make it a good game mainly because they're rivals. Alabama A&M knows how to beat them. They know how to hit them where it hurts.
Without a doubt. But at the same time, if Andrew Body gets hot and that offense gets hot, it's gonna be up to Alabama A&M to take advantage of that because Alabama A&M has not played a team like Alabama State. Okay, not saying that they don't have what it takes to beat Alabama State. They do.
A&M, look, I mean, look, A&M hasn't beat them since 2021, and I could be wrong. But from what I've saw, they haven't beat them since 2021. Alabama State has upper edge this year. Alabama State definitely has the upper edge. They have the better team. They have the better coaching staff.
Yep.
So, but
And
before,
defense.
agreed. But before we close this out, there is the one last topic I wanted to talk about, the MEAC, Michael. We talked so much about Norfolk, but Delaware State.
Mm-hmm.
But could you agree that South Carolina State has a very good chance to come out and win that division, that conference?
They do.
They look incredible. See, let me say this: South Carolina State is a good team. They're consistently good, like consistently good. I don't see them taking their foot off the gas pedal this year. And how they've already started the season, they're in first place.
Yep. And and even on here, according to the 2025 MEAC preseason football poll, if you remember, South Carolina State was projected to be the most dominant team, and they even are right now. So, North Carolina Central was projected to finish close second, including a potential tie race.
Look, I'm gonna say this about South Carolina State. They made it to the Celebration Bowl last year, and they played Jackson State. Unfortunately, they lost, but that should just go to show you South Carolina State is a legit team, a very legit team.
Yeah.
I kind of, honestly, I haven't really watched too much of them, but when we started, when we talked about the North Carolina A&T game, they won that out. They won that. They blew out Savannah State.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Bethune-Cookman, who, and if you look at it like this, people obviously think, look, the SWAC play is better than MEAC play. You already beaten teams out of different conferences, and they may have not beaten South Carolina, but I would say they at least put up a fight with them.
Yeah.
That's a Power 4 school. South Carolina State is going to continue to march to the championship. I'm looking at it right now. Their hardest game from here on is probably going to be against Delaware State and North Carolina Central. But from there, it's I don't know. I think South Carolina is the only way they lose is if they shoot themselves in the foot. But they do have to worry about North Carolina Central because they are close in the race. Also, Delaware State could also come and catch up. But I think South Carolina State's in a pretty good spot right now. But since the conference is so small, they need to continue to win out.
Yep. Without a doubt, I just think that South Carolina State is the most dangerous, one of the most dangerous teams in the MEAC conference. And the game against Delaware State is going to determine that. Really is going to determine the fate of the MEAC conference, and it's going to determine the fate of South Carolina State in their spot in the Celebration Bowl. I think that's what that game is going to determine. Now, like I said, right now they are the hottest team in the MEAC conference, and that's without a question. I mean, their coaching staff is on point. You have the offense, you got the quarterback, you got the right pieces to win the MEAC conference. It's just you gotta get past teams like you said, Delaware State, for example, and Deshaun Jackson, Delaware State, they're coming up in the MEAC conference. So if you beat them,
it's yours. You basically
have your ticket.
But I don't know. Something just tells me that it's gonna come down to them final games.
Yeah, and it will. South Carolina State will have to win out, and I believe that they can and they will, because they're
We
they're
spoke
hot.
about Delaware State. We spoke good about Delaware State, but I
Yeah.
just think South
But
Carolina State they're on a continuous trend upward, and I feel like it's just not Delaware State's time yet. Not saying this can't happen next year, but and we could very much be wrong. I would love to see Delaware State in the championship, but my prediction right now is just South Carolina State is going to continue to.
yeah, and like I said, the one. Let me put it this way: the way I see it, South Carolina State can either win out the remainder of their schedule, beat Delaware State, and represent the MEAC conference again in the Celebration Bowl, and possibly compete with Jackson State, or they lose one or two, and whoever is right behind South Carolina State could possibly represent the MEAC. But I just think South Carolina State needs to continue to play at a high level like they've been playing, right? And and I think the only thing that's going to play a major factor in them losing that spot is offensive inconsistency or defensive inconsistency or injuries. I've stayed talking about injuries. And that's just really what is going to determine their season. I mean, you're in a position already. Let's say the season was over right now. South Carolina State would have played in Celebration Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would have played Jackson State in the Celebration Bowl. So it's all up to South Carolina State and their head coaching staff at this point. How their season is going to go for the rest of the season is totally up to them and how they play each game.
Agreed.
Be perfect? No team is perfect. Okay, but in order for you to win and play in the Celebration Bowl, which is one of the biggest bowls for HBCUs to play at, especially with the MEAC and SWAC, you got to win out.
Agreed.
Bottom line. So I think South Carolina State is that team that represents the MEAC conference.
Agreed. But
short, just like that.
But closing this out, send y'all's, who y'all have winning, SWAC, who y'all have winning the SWAC, both divisions, who y'all have winning the MEAC, and also put in the comments. First, as always, we say this: rep your school, put the school that you're supporting, put what school is watching, and put what school that you would like to talk about this morning. And also, as always, we love y'all's feedback, we love y'all's commentary. Continue to speak in the comments, continue to spark active conversations. We love that. It helps our engagement and it helps us get to know our subscribers more. And eventually, like we said before, one day that y'all will get on. But like I said before, it's getting pretty late, so we got to close this out. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that. And Michael, you have any closing remarks?
No, I don't have any closing. Actually, I do. I got one. Y'all watch for that Jackson State and Grambling game this coming up weekend. Also, y'all watch that Alabama State versus Alabama A&M Magic City Classic. And I think, if I remember correctly, I think Delaware State and Norfolk State are playing each other. I believe. I could be. I think I'm wrong on that. But the Magic City Classic and Jackson State versus Grambling in Las Vegas. Y'all watch that. Hopefully I'm wrong on how those, especially hopefully I'm wrong on how Jackson State and Grambling game goes. I really hope that game is at least competitive throughout. But y'all watch those two classics. If you don't know nothing about HBCUs, watch those two classics because that's what HBCUs are all about. It's all about the classics, and the classics are where they at. You got two dominant bands. You got the world fame. You got the Jackson.
Sonic Boom of the South. So
I would probably stay tuned for that, especially the halftime show. I'll look forward to that because Jackson State and Grambling band, they don't play. They come to pop out and show out, and which they already have. And I know Deuce can agree with me on that. But as always, y'all stay safe. Thank y'all again for y'all support throughout. Deuce, that's basically all I have. Just be on the lookout for those 2 games, y'all. And yeah, we'll be back sometime, maybe next week, possibly.
Yes, next week. And we'll hopefully have a special guest. But as always, thank you for watching.
Grace, peace.